Good evening, everyone. Study session of the Orange Unified School District regularly scheduled meeting September 29th, 2020 at 6:04 p.m. As stated in our agenda, Trustee Ortega will be conferencing from the Doubletree Hotel lobby in Berkeley. Wanted to check in to see Trustee Ortega. Okay. Trustee Page, do we have a?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Item 1C, please stand for the pledge. Okay. Item 1D, adoption of the agenda. May I please have to adopt?
Second.
Page moved and Trustee Moffett second. Any discussion? So do we do a roll call vote since, or we don't have to since Trustee Ortega is not online?
Why don't we just go?
Yeah, I would go ahead and do the roll call vote. So,
All right. All right.
Ms. Eric, would you like for me to do it? I can do it from the dais. Ms. Rumsey,
Yes.
Ms. Moffett,
Yes.
Ms. Page,
Yes.
Ms. Yamasaki,
Yes.
Ms. Erickson,
Yes.
Mr. Ortega, absent, and Mr. Ledesma, absent.
So 502.
Yeah, at this point, and if and when Mr. Ortega will note it when he joins.
Okay.
Okay.
So motion is adopted, 502. Trustee Page, can you read the guidelines for public comments?
Yes. As required by the Brown Act, Government Code Section 54956, at special meetings, study sessions, members of the audience may only address the Board of Education on items that are agendized. Public comments may be received on the facilities update study session. And we don't have any blue cards.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, item 3, work study session, and Dr. Hanson.
Yes, we're very pleased to be able this evening to present information to the board on a facilities update that will involve a multitude of different facilities projects going on in our district. Since the summer, we have been working diligently to put together these presentations. You'll see they're rather extensive, but our hope is to provide you with information detailed on many of the important achievements, as well as information on projects that have been ongoing and those that we have in the works, and just some of the successes that we've also seen with our programs. So the first part of our meeting will be with Mr. Rivera and Tony Niquette discussing our deferred maintenance program and the integration of the ESSER funding to put together to accomplish more projects in maintenance on our school sites. And he's going to be presenting an update on all of those various items. And then on our agenda, we'll be talking about the Attract and Retain program. That'll also be Mr. Rivera and Mr. Joe Irvin, who's the Executive Director of Innovation and Excellence. We'll be discussing some of our new programs to attract and retain students on the various campuses, and we're happy to share some data with you on that. Then we will have our consultants for the State Facility Fund Matching Program that will be speaking with us about the status of state matching on some of the programs that we've had and some of the projects. That's Julie Zimmerman and Kate Vega, who are sitting up here in the front, so they'll be part of our team this evening. And then we'll wrap it up with Measure S. We'll talk about the successful sale of Series B of Measure S bond sales and the tax rates, which we were able to get as of today, like 4 o'clock today. So we actually have some new information there to share with the board. And then finally wrapping up with Phase 2 Measure S projects with Mr. Harvey and Mr. Rivera, sharing those plans and reviewing. So it's going to be a lot of information, but it's a good time, beginning of the school year, to get you updated on where we are with all of these projects, but also to go back and review things like state facility matching, what those requirements are, what that criteria is. It's a very complex program. And so that you'll know what's coming and what we're eligible for in the future. So I'd like to thank Mr. Rivera from the very beginning. We joke this is the Dave show tonight, so Dave and his team. And I know we have some of our consultants as well from coming here. We have Rory from our program management team from coming. So we'll go ahead and I'd like to show a video that in my opinion, summarizes like the tremendous amount of work over the last, I would say, 5 to 10 years in not only getting, Measure S passed and on the ballot and everything that's gone into that, the planning and preparation, but just all the success in terms of the funding and the great decisions the board has made financially on transactions to be able to really stretch those dollars to ensure that we're supporting our schools, modernizing them, 21st century schools for our students. So we have a little video, and I want to thank the communications team for putting that together to kick off the meeting, just to give you some highlights of what's been going on over the last several years in the facilities area. So on your table in front of you, Mr. Rivera provided a supplemental document that lists everything that was rolling through that slide of all those accomplishments, because I know it was probably going a little bit fast, and just want to make sure that you have that. But that's a snapshot of just the incredible work that's happened since 2016, since we started this journey with Measure S, and the focus on ensuring that our schools have the very best quality programs, classrooms for our students. So, Mr. Rivera?
There's only one edit I wanted to make to the video, but Kevin couldn't get to it, is making it scroll like Star Wars, to give that effect. But once we ran the reports and Mrs. Balsaro showed me the numbers of the amount of funds that we have committed in our facilities, I was overwhelmed seeing the numbers of what we've been committing every year and what we've been doing to change the face of our facilities, which is really the basis of when we look at our educational program. And tonight is all about a dialogue, having a dialogue with the board to talk about the different phases of our projects that are going on. Starting with deferred maintenance, the attract and retain, which is the program aspect. How do we maximize the funds that we get? So not only our internal resource, but we're going to hear from our consultants, our tax information about Measure S, and then phase 2 update, because it's been a while since we've given the community an update, but it's all centered around kids. What are we doing for kids? So I want to respect your time because we do have a lot of content to share tonight. So I'm going to ask Mr. Niket to come join me and share the projects that have been, that we've been working on, in some cases planning for next summer for the last 5 months. So Mr. Niket.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Good evening, Board President Yamasaki, distinguished board members, Dr. Hanson, and cabinet members. Thank you for having me tonight. It's a pleasure, and I'm excited to present this to you. It's been a lot of work, like Mr. Rivera said. The last 5 or 6 months, we've been spending a lot of time on this, and it's been an exciting process. There's so many different things that we focused on, and these are our high priority projects. Ansel fire systems, fencing improvements, and then moving into our HVAC and some of these other projects. And as you can see, you know, I wanted to focus on this slide with our Chapman Hills roof because I felt like it just brings out what some of the things that we've been trying to accomplish, especially roofing. And I know roofs are kind of boring to look at, but I thought this one was pretty cool looking. So this was Chapman Hills we did over the summer, and chose this color over gray just because it blends in better with the community, and it looks really classy. So we're going to be doing some more painting upgrades at that site as well.
Excuse me, Mr. Niket. I believe Mr. Ortega just signed on, so I just wanted to. Mr. Ortega, can you let us know if you're present?
No, I am. I was just talking to Tams for whatever reason, the connection wasn't going through, and so now it has. So we're all good now.
Chapman Hills looks great, by the way. We were just
thank you.
there.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Looks awesome.
Thank you. I thought
Mr.
so, too.
Ortega, can you let us know if you're present in the meeting?
I am. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you really well.
Okay. No, I
Yeah.
was saying I was on the phone with Tam saying that I couldn't get in for whatever reason. Now I got in, so we're all
Sure.
good.
And we can hear you quite well, so
All right.
good.
I'll turn it off.
Okay. No, the volume's great.
All right, and continuing on, welcome, Mr. Ortega. Continuing on with the roofing, Orange High School's gym had some issues last rainy season, as we all know. On this roof, you can kind of see some of the dirt buildup, not from not cleaning the roofs, this is just an old roof. In that area that Mr. Rivera is pointing out, we have some old patches there. And then the windows in that top cupola were actually leaking really bad. There was actually windows there and they were rotting. So those are all sealed up now. The after picture, there is no windows there anymore, and the roof is completely sealed, and we will have no more leaks in the gym. So we were very happy about that because we're going to continue forward with more work in the gym coming up here, and we don't want to have that all that work damaged. So
Can I ask a question?
yes, ma'am.
Is this now a roof that will last years in the future?
Yes, this roof will last us 25 to 30 years, depending on.
Okay, so
On
it's
the
more
care.
than just patching up the windows. that were
Yeah,
rotten.
no, we
Okay.
completely resurfaced the whole roof. You can kind of see in the after picture, one half of the roof is still being worked on, and they do an underlayment and then they do a coating over the
Oh, I
top.
see.
So
Multiple layers.
yes, yeah, and it seals it completely up. It's a great system. It's an APOC system. Yes.
Thank you.
So one of the other things that we moved forward was on an Ansel fire system. I know not everybody here really knows what that is. It's kind of behind the scenes, but in our kitchens, we have fire systems over our cooking equipment. That's very important for school safety. Because if we get a fire in a kitchen, it could be a terrible thing. So some of these systems were very outdated and needed to be upgraded. So these were the sites that were identified, and we went ahead and had those upgraded over the summer. So we worked with food service on that, and so now we're all up to date. And then here's some of our additional projects. There's quite a few there. I'm not going to go through every single one of them. You can see them there for yourself. But these are some of the typical things that we do over the summer anyway. Paving. You can see Saraville. We had a really bad area here that was kind of unsafe for the kids that we re-asphalted. Villa Park's gym foyer. It looks amazing. It's a vinyl flooring that we did that looks just like the gym floor. That's not wood, but it looks like it. So it kind of blends right into the gym floor, so it looks really good. And then over at Cambridge, we actually worked with facilities on this one. This is a brand new playground in their kinder, and it came out really nice. And then moving forward into our ESSER projects, like Ms. Rivera said, we've been working probably since April or May on putting together the ESSER plan. And these were some of the high priority items that we identified to get started on for this last summer. There's another comprehensive list after this, but as you can see, these were some of the really great things that we did. El Medina's library, Orange High School's cafeteria. The furniture is on its way with the supply chain delays. It took a little longer than we anticipated, but it should be here in the next couple of weeks. And then continuing on with the kinder restrooms, we had to do those over the summer because we can't close kinder restrooms during school. So those are those
Couple of
projects.
questions on this slide.
Yes.
You mentioned El Medina's library. Did you keep the recognition of Mr. Ramirez and
The Aztec mural? Was that what it was?
No, the name of the El Medina library is the
Yeah.
Ramirez
Oh.
Library.
Oh, it's in the hallway, yeah.
Yeah,
I was
it's
just
still
there
there.
this week, yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
All the memorabilia and his.
Oh, yes, and the
Yes.
entryway. Yes, that's
And
still there.
the
I'm
entryway
sorry.
with the display case, yeah.
Yes, we just repainted the display case, but it's still there. Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
And the other thing, oh, that's not it. No. Well, I wanted to ask, I lost my second question anyway. Do we have, I'll ask this question later. Sorry.
Okay, it's fine. This next slide might answer that, so maybe we'll
There it
go on.
is, ESSER. Can
Yes.
you remind us what that
What is the
acronym stands for?
I'm not-
Elementary and secondary schools emergency relief.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everything she said.
I
yes.
should know that.
And this is part of the pandemic relief?
Yes, yes, it's federal funding. So as you can see here, these are the projects that we are currently in the planning phases with. We've been working with architects and the M&O team and facilities and also the purchasing department and putting together bids. And so all of these things are in the planning processes as we speak. Some of these will be going to DSA. Some of them will be done in-house. Some of them will be done by smaller contractors. So, but we're moving forward with these with the anticipation of being done by the end of ESSER. ESSER funding has to be spent by August 30th of 2024. So we have that goal in mind, and I fully anticipate we'll be able to meet that goal.
A question about the kitchen renovations at 4 high schools. Is
Yeah.
that including Richland instead of Canyon? Because Canyon's having their big,
Yes.
okay, so
Yeah.
it's,
If yes, to answer your question, yes, we'll move forward on that one.
okay, thank you.
And then I know that was kind of quick, but I wanted to thank you all for your support. But I wanted to also point out, this is a training room that I put together at our facility for our staff. And this is the wall that I did in there. And it's representing all of the Collins site groups. So it's maintenance, facilities and planning, transportation, purchasing, because they're all welcome to use it, and they do quite often. And it's a nice space for our staff. And the much needed training that we're able to give them. So that's why I put this up here, just to kind of point that out. So, all right, thank you very much. Yes.
I just want to say that we've been in that room and it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a vision, and I'm so glad it happened. So, and I want to thank Mr. Rivera for letting that happen, because he gave his blessing on our staff love it. It's awesome for them. So, yeah, thank you. Any more questions?
I have a question about the cameras over at Canyon Rim. I
Mhm.
understand that there was vandalism at one point, and that's why they
Yes,
needed some cameras.
yes.
My other concern is Anaheim Hills Elementary School
Mhm.
because it backs the trail, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of people who go up that trail, and
Yes.
my understanding, they jump the fence back there.
Mhm.
So will we be doing anything?
Yes, yes, we're working with IT on that, and we've been working with TAM and IT on identifying the rest of the sites that we're going to move forward with cameras, and I believe he has a pretty substantial list, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
You said additional deferred maintenance projects, the page that I'm on, and fencing projects to improve security.
mm-hmm.
Can you tell me what kind
Sure.
of fencing and what did you
Yeah,
do?
of course. So over at Handy and it was Handy and Levita, they had a 4-foot fence that went across the whole front of the school. So basically it wasn't very much of a security block. So we raised the fences to, I think at Levita we raised it to 7 feet, and at Handy we raised it to 6. Only because the covered walkway, it would have been too high for the covered walkway. So we did that at both of those sites, and over at Taft, our kindergarten actually faces a main street, Taft Street. So it's Cambridge. So it faces Cambridge, so we slatted off. In other words, put slats in the fence all the way around to block it off, to keep, it's open to the public, and we don't know what's going on out there with people. So we just, we secured that area. And then I'm working with Heriberto Angel also, and the risk management team on identifying other sites that need new fencing, raised fencing, new fencing for security reasons. Also slatting, we were just talking about that. So we're moving forward with those projects, and we'll be doing everything we can to make the sites much safer. That's a big concern of ours. I know Mr. Rivera and I talk about it a lot, so yes.
Now I'll ask my other question if I may. Do all of our school sites now have bottle fillers
Yes, they have at least one, yes.
at every school site?
Yep, yes.
Okay.
They were done in the spring and a little
Okay.
bit over the summer. They got finished in the summer, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Yeah.
and that probably was funded through the ESSER funds? That
Yes,
would
it
be an
was,
appropriate
yes.
thing?
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Trustee Erickson?
Right.
Sure. First of all, thank you. We've been out to a lot of these campuses and have seen some of the improvements, and they're absolutely amazing. Orange High's gym looks great.
Yes.
It's very bright.
Yeah.
It's very pretty.
Yes.
But amazing work. The shade structures for the kids at the elementary schools they're just loving them.
Yeah.
So everything that we're doing, just so the public knows, it's not just about making things look pretty. It's a matter of keeping our kids safe, comfortable, creating learning environments that are actually conducive to learning, having clean air in our classrooms,
Yes.
better lighting, all of those things. So people understand it's not just a matter of trying to make things look good. That's a benefit for sure. But there were a couple things that I saw just on the water filling station, for instance, at Palmyra.
Mhm.
There were, it looks like it was just placed on the original tile that had a few, had some cracks and things. So who do we talk to about that? Do we just talk to you about that? Or?
Yeah, well, I'll look into it,
Okay.
and I'll find out, and there is some things that we can do with that. We can put some, the Santa Glaze product like we use in the restrooms over the tile, and it'll completely disappear for the most part. We can repair the tiles and just spray it with Santa Glaze,
Yeah.
and it'll be permanent. You'll never have to do anything with it again, so.
Okay, because
Yeah.
it was actually, like, there's parts of it that are broken.
Yeah,
And so I just wonder when that sort of thing happens, because obviously that was a big job, but
Yeah.
Is it up to the people that are installing to, like, say to you, hey, there's broken tiles and they just didn't?
Yeah,
or-
I think
Yeah.
that would be part of it, but I
Okay.
think that we can go back and reevaluate some of those areas that need to be worked on.
Right.
Some of that stuff wasn't really in their scope of work. It was more about just getting the bottle filler in there. So,
Sure.
yeah, but it doesn't mean we can't deal with it. We can.
Right, just
Yeah.
because, I mean, it's definitely, it's a benefit to have the water
Yeah.
filler, but you kind of look at it and you go,
Yeah. Get it. Yeah,
who left that?
it makes sense, yeah.
And I just.
Miss Erickson, can I just interrupt you for a
Yeah.
minute? Because we're on a roll call vote. roll call quorum. I just want to acknowledge that Mr. Ledesma is here and he's present. Can you say you're present?
Present, Rick Ledesma.
Because we have Mr. Ortega conferencing in, that's the protocol, is that we have to acknowledge everyone that's here through
Okay.
okay, thank you. Now we're set.
I had a question. How many schools have the cameras now?
There's various, I don't know the exact count.
Okay.
I could get back to you on that because we've had some camp schools that already had cameras.
Right.
And then we have some that we've added, so I'm not sure of the exact number, but I can definitely get back to you on that.
We can put that in the Friday letter.
Yeah.
I know that they've been doing an analysis of the security cameras with the technology department. And so many of those schools have already been reviewed, but, we have a lot of needs, so it's going to take time to get all of that in place.
Right.
I believe most of the high schools have security cameras on them, I believe, and then we have Canyon Ram. So I know, but that's part of what the IT department, TAM, is doing, is kind of evaluating how we're going to move through this, the priority schools. So, yeah.
Perfect. And the fencing looks great,
Oh,
like
thank you.
Levita, and it
Yeah.
really looks nice. Any
Yeah.
place that we can replace some of that old
Yeah.
fencing looks.
There is a lot, but we'll identify it and get it changed.
But overall, just great job.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
been, the amount of work that your department has done is just, it's incredible. And I
Oh,
know we
I
haven't
appreciate it.
always had full staff either. So
Yeah.
to get what you've gotten done, it's really phenomenal. So thank you.
Thank you. And I don't like to take the credit. I like to give credit to my team. I have an amazing group of people that work with me. And it's a pleasure to come to work every day and work with them. So not only my leadership team, but my staff. They're great people.
There was, just to point out, there was something that came up, I think 2 weeks ago, and we called you, and it was a concern that somebody had, and it was fixed like that.
Yeah.
It was like the next day or 2 days later. And I know that made the people very, very happy, and they were very grateful. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you. Okay.
All right, do we have any other
That's
questions?
Just a little follow-up, back on the water bottle fillers. You said that all the schools have at least one.
Uh-huh.
Let's say you're at the school that has one. Do the students have access to that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, everybody has access.
Okay.
Most of them were put fairly close to the lunch areas
Okay,
for that reason, so everybody can get. So we didn't really put them inside.
okay.
They're outside.
I was just
for
wondering if
access.
it was a school that had one and it was like in the teacher's lounge or something.
Oh, no. We put them in access areas for the kids next to the lunch areas. They were
Okay.
put in places strategically for that
For the
reason.
students. Good.
Yeah.
Thank
yeah.
you.
Okay.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yes, I have.
Oh, Trustee Ortega?
Yes.
Yes.
And
And
I just want to make sure that we're addressing the air conditioning. I know I had a long conversation with Dave this week, and I showed him photos when I was at back to school night at Orange High. So I just want to make sure that's being addressed.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ortega. That was addressed. The aluminum foil placed on a portion of the air conditioner, that was done at the staff, at school staff. That isn't something that was done by maintenance because that's not one of our protocols. And I understand that the air conditioning was blowing, and it was blowing towards the teacher's desk. So we're also putting the deflector so that way it doesn't blow as much on the teacher's desk, like what you would see on the ceiling. So that is being addressed.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I actually have one more question. Going along with the security camera question that Erickson asked, I believe. So we have elementary schools with no security cameras at all. Clarify that.
But I just want to say that the part of the plan is that we're working with IT. They're assessing each, like, groups of elementary schools to phase in security cameras. So the goal is that we're working towards having cameras in strategic locations at the
Every
element.
school?
Yes, that's our
Okay.
goal. but it will take time because that's a big endeavor to get that done and to analyze, because you have to have not only the technology, but then there's also security issues like where you put it. Takes a lot of analysis, and so they're working on that. I know Ed Services is working in collaboration with maintenance as well as with technology support staff, because we need to make sure that we're getting, you know, the best system for the money that we're, because it will be very expensive.
I think it's important.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Every school has school cameras for the security of the school, but also just for what's going on at the school as well.
And we also have a large number of elementary schools. So it's going to take longer for us to do it because just the mere count of our schools.
You know, and also just to comment, once we have this, and even now that we're on our way to that, I think it's important that we publicize that because it's a deterrent. So I think it's helpful that everybody knows that this is either in effect now or coming.
Madam President? I'm sorry, go ahead. Anna.
I just wanted to ask Ms. Rumsey, did you mean the cameras internally or outwardly? Like, can you elaborate a little more? I'm curious.
Well, yeah, I mean, a security camera is going to detect an intruder, but then it also might, well, it's also, if they're pointed to the playground behavior or hallway behavior, then that footage can be recalled back and you can have actual video footage of something that may have occurred.
Of different incidents.
And which has happened at my location, which has been very beneficial. Just to be able to pull that footage up and see exactly what happened. Because, you know, children have their own versions. And when we're in the heat of the moment, we have our own versions also. So it's not to be thought of as trying to catch somebody in the act, but rather just transparency.
Okay, thank you. Because I've been wondering about camera placement as well, whether they're going to be facing the street of, you know, the public coming to the school site, or if they're going to be placed inside the school site.
I think when you're in a neighborhood, you need to be kind of careful because you have private property, obviously, that you don't want to showing.
Madam President?
Yes, trustee.
Kind of in relation to this, and John, maybe you can help me out with this, Mr. Ortega. With the budget, didn't we have do you look into that proposal or that resolution that we had about the deferred funding of the deferred maintenance? Did you get that clarified, Mr. Rivera?
Yes, we've shown in the video the level of spending that we've had.
Right.
And I can share that with you later, is that including our deferred maintenance, we're over $130 million of spending. There's actually a supplement that you have in front of you as to the level of spending that we've had from our four deferred maintenance projects.
Okay, but but I'm talking in terms of the resolution. Are we aligned with the resolution from the past?
Yes,
as far as funding
we're aligned.
Okay, that's just one from that.
Yeah, and I think we've actually gone above that 4% that the board had allocated through resolution. We've actually done way above that.
Okay, good.
So it's good.
Great, thank you.
No, I think too, Mr. Ledesma stating that, are we on track and maintaining that 4% that we allocated as a board?
Yes, the spending that we are at, we're above the $4 million.
I mean, budgetary speaking.
Yes,
like,
we're
yeah.
We're the $4 million. The 1% additional to bring us to the max is about $4.1 million. We're spending way above that amount.
And then if I can add value to what's being spoken about cameras, is we need to conduct a video surveillance assessment, seeing what we have and what we need. I think that would be the best suited in how we move forward with somebody that can give us that.
Yeah, thank
That's
you.
just my question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ortega. I believe that's what the team is working on with TAM and working with our Ed Services Division is exactly that. There's an assessment going on to determine where these cameras would go, how many we'd need per site, exactly in what you're saying. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Can I just ask a question, follow up to that? So when you say an assessment, are you talking about somebody like an expert coming in and kind of guiding us and telling us these are the best practices? Or are you just talking physically where the cameras are pointing? Because I would think we would want to be really strategic and make sure that we're.
I think it's
right.
very involved. It's extremely involved. I was going to say, Tony, if you want to,
Yeah.
or we could put some more details in the Friday letter as
Sure.
well.
Yeah.
So.
We use a company called Inter-Pacific, and that's what they do.
Okay.
And they'll come out and give you an assessment. They walk the complete site with you. They show you the best angles, what cameras would work where. And then they also do signage and things like that. So yes, Tam works with them quite closely. That's the company that he uses. And they do an amazing job. They did a great job at Canyon Rim. And they're very quick too. They can do things pretty quickly. So depending on the infrastructure. So he does that, yes.
I figured you did.
Yeah.
But I just wanted
No,
to
it's
clarify
fine.
because
Yeah,
I know,
that's fine.
I know you're going to ask the people that know. So thank you.
Yes, yes.
Could you say that company name for me again, please?
Inter-Pacific?
Inner Pacific?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I think we can all agree that it's clear that security cameras are a top priority for the entire board. So. I do have one more question about fencing. I don't think I heard it mentioned. Canyon High School right now has a chain link fence. Is that going to be changed out, or what's going to be happening there?
Yes, I know that Mr. Harvey's been managing that project. So let me have him come up and address that. But we have gotten some feedback from the community about the front fence in front of Canyon High School.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. So to answer that question, it's kind of in the works. If we haven't presented anything to you, but the city, and we've talked about it a little bit, the city's working on an easement for a bike trail. And when they do that, they would replace our fencing in the front with the nicer fencing. But they need to come with us and present to you more in detail what the plan is. And that's just not something that they're ready to do at this time. But
So we're going to hold.
We're waiting for that. And then if that doesn't play out, then we would look into replacing the fencing or changing the fencing in some way.
Okay.
Take it down, whatever we end up doing.
Right. Okay. Thank you. I will also just wanted to say that Trustee Erickson and I did visit Orange High School, and we saw the white paint on the Quonset hut gym. And I've been told that certain times of the day that the light reflects on it and turns the panther white. Is that true? Yeah. So we have to see that one day. Thank you.
So if I may, let's transition to the Attract and Retain program. Mr. Irvin's going to be joining me to talk about these programs. So we're going to explain what Attract and Retain is and what that philosophy and program really entails. But it's really, as you see in this diagram, it's really a comprehensive system. It's not just about fixing buildings. It's not about putting new facilities in. It starts with quality instruction. And I don't want to steal Mr. Irving's thunder, but unless you have quality instructors, unless you have quality employees, you cannot implement an Attract and Retain program. Right? It's a complement of all of these things working together. So not just one strategy, it's a multitude of strategies, and as they work together and collaborate. Mr. Irving?
Welcome, Mr. Irvin.
Well, good evening, Board President Yamasaki, board members, and executive cabinet. So tonight we'll be reviewing Attract and Retain, and you can see here, just as Mr. Rivera was just speaking about, it's a conglomeration of many things that go into the Attract and Retain program. So we'll be focusing on some signature programs tonight and giving some anecdotal evidence about enrollment changes we've seen due to the implementation of some of these signature programs. But when we also look at the Attract and Retain program, we also are looking at quality instruction, which is our excellent teachers with their high quality curriculum, our engaging communication systems, expanding our program offerings, which I will also be addressing, and then sustainable funding sources and effective learning environments.
May I just ask you a quick question?
Yes.
Attract and retain. We're talking about students, we're talking about teachers, we're talking about everything, everybody. What's the specific receiving audience of that phrase?
I think for this phrase, when we're looking at attract and retain, we're specifically focusing on students, attracting them to our campuses and then retaining the students that we currently have in our campuses.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start tonight with some of our signature programs and some successes of those programs. And in terms of, and we're really looking here at the enrollment evidence that we have in place. So first, we have a list of some signature programs here, and I've presented last year on many of these signature programs, and I'll continue presenting on them throughout the year with our videos. These signature programs offer parent choice with regards to schools and programs. So we have our World IB School, which is Running Springs Academy, and thank you to those of you that were able to make that that ceremony yesterday. We have Project Lead the Way at several of our sites, which is our STEM-focused curriculum that also has a strong CTE, career technical education focus. Our dual immersion pathways, which go from TK through 12th grade. Right now we have Spanish and Mandarin, two pathways in Spanish and one in Mandarin. We have VEX Robotics across the district, our Verizon Innovation program, both at Yorba and Portola, Portola Preparatory Academy, which I'll be focusing on, and then our Math Academy and Apple Distinguished School and our California iInspire Academy. And I'll talk about some of these specifically, but I'd like to highlight that this has been a collaborative effort between our classified, certificated, and leadership as we roll out these programs and engage our community. So again, we're looking at how these programs have impacted our enrollment at these various school sites. And so I picked out some examples, but I'll not talk about each and every one. We'll highlight some of them. So first there we see Crescent. Crescent has had a VEX Robotics program. They've competed at the World Championship that moves around Knoxville, Dallas. They they have implemented the Project Lead the Way curriculum, and we have a biomedical lab, which we opened last year. And they are looking to be a distinguished school for Project Lead the Way by the end of the 22-23 school year. So just this year, we saw an increase in enrollment of 30 students to Crescent Elementary, and we have 39 new students to OUSD. When you're looking at new students to OUSD, those are students that had not previously been enrolled in Orange Unified School District, and that's not counting TK or kinder. So these are new students either moving into the area or could be coming out of private school, but they're new to enrollment within our district. We have highlighted Running Springs. Again, yesterday, many of you were at the World School Celebration. I'd like to highlight Portola Prep. Portola Prep, or Portola Middle School, which they have a Portola Prep program now. They are Verizon Innovative Learning School. We have been very proud of that partnership. They started that program last year. They are getting a Verizon Innovation Learning Lab installed currently. We opened the Portola Prep Academy this year, and that's a program for one cohort of students that we're getting them prepared for the early college experience at Orange High School. So they are going through some pre-AP courses as well as C-STEM Robotics, which is a math computer science integrated program. Just in this year, we've seen some huge increases in students numbers at Portola. We initially saw we have 52 additional students over the demographic projections we were given by our Davis demographics. So that's 52 students above what we were expecting. 40 new students to OUSD, and we've had 22 interdistrict transfers to Portola. So again, we can attribute a lot of that to the work that the school site, Mr. Morgan, the teachers, and the entire team have been doing at Portola.
I have a question.
Yes.
Interdistrict transfers, is that's from one district to another district?
Correct. They're living outside.
intra would be school to school within our district.
Yeah, inter-district, we typically talk about those moving into from a different district. And then within when students are moving within the district, we typically call those open enrollment.
And then those inter-district transfers then, are they part of the 40?
Some of them are. Some of them are continuing. So if we have a 6th grader that moved into 7th grade and was an inter-district transfer last year, they're not new to OUSD. So not all of those 22 are included in that 40. But we could get you the breakdown if you wanted more information. I tried to just give the,
Just wondered
yeah.
if that one was the subset of the other.
Now, you said it wasn't preschool.
Well, Portola is only a 6, 7, and 8, but all of those new students to OUSD don't count TK or kinder because technically everyone in TK and kinder is new to OUSD. Yeah. And here we have some other examples. We have our dual immersion programs, but I would like to highlight West Orange, which is the second one down there. West Orange Elementary, they have been working on becoming a math academy. Dr. Murray has been doing great work there with C-STEM robotics. In fact, she was just named the State Administrator of the Year through UC Davis for this program, and will be receiving an award in October. And I'll be putting out a press release and getting you more information about that, but we just found out about it on Tuesday. So this is great news for our districts. At her school site, she has seen 29 inter-district transfers into West Orange Elementary, and again, 29 new students to OUSD. And again, a lot of the work that she and her team are doing there, they are publicizing their work on social media. She has a WIN program called What I Need, and it's an intervention and advancement program for her students at West Orange. So again, just some more examples of successes we've seen.
Mr. Irvin, let's say her name again. What's her name?
Monica Murray.
Monica. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Wow, congratulations to
Yeah.
Monica Murray. Wow.
So people understand, we were just at West Orange last week, and it's so impressive. And they showed us their whole intervention, program, and how they have every single child's name down on and where they are. And I mean, it's phenomenal what they're doing over there. But for the math program, so they're doing a focus of, is it 90 minutes a day at the first hour and a half, which is really incredible. It looks like it, I can't wait to see what the statistics are and things and the success of it, because it's just an incredible program.
Yeah.
Just to put things in context, when you look at the 58 additional kids at West Orange, you're looking at 15 to 20% increase in enrollment. So it's a large percentage that they're able to attract. It may not be the largest number, but they're also a small school site. So what's impressive about this list, and when I reviewed the list with Mr. Irving, is that these are significant double-digit increases that the schools are doing. And there's another section of this report that we can show you how over time there's a greater attraction to our elementary schools more than ever.
And I will say that the math, so she has the math program at the beginning of the day, and then we're also incorporating the C-STEM robotics. We have a C-STEM resource teacher, Greg Miller, who's going out to 4 sites to help infuse the program. So he's at West Orange 2 days a week right now to help those teachers. And Dr. Murray has made wanting to have every classroom using that program. And again, this is exemplifying why she is getting that state award, because she herself has been doing the curriculum in kinder through part of last year and the beginning of this year. Oh, good.
Yes, we do.
Okay. Our community showcases. We continue to promote all of our programs. Last year, we had our high school showcases. We had planned them to be community showcase events with our elementary, middle, and high schools. However, when we got back from winter break, we had the Omicron outbreak, and so we had to par it down. So we didn't have the elementary, middle schools participating. However, we are looking to open that up this year. So just so you know, those are the dates. We have Villa Park High School coming up on February 1st, El Medina February 8th, Orange High School February 15th, and Canyon High School February 22nd. So the high schools are going to do their regular showcase events from 6 to 7:30, but then we're going to have opportunities for the elementary middle schools to be there from 5 to 6, and we're going to have a rotating stage opportunity for them to be putting on performances every 15 minutes. And we want to get as many of the middle school and elementary students onto the campus as possible so they can then stay for the high school showcase event and see all the what the high schools have to offer. So that's going to be coming up in February. And last year we saw significant increases in the number of students or number of families that attended those showcase events. I think at Canyon, I estimated we had about 1,500 families or individuals attend that showcase. El Medina and Villa Park were over 1,000. And in previous years, we've had several hundred. So it was, I'm sure a part of it was coming out of the pandemic and people wanted to see the schools and be out and about, but we saw a huge increase in family engagement during those showcase events. I know many of you were there and saw that as well. Our high schools also opened up their STEM centers, and we've seen significant increases in enrollment at our high schools. So you can see here the numbers on the top that go across, those are the number of inter-district transfers coming into each of those schools. So Canyon High School, 77, El Medina, 40, Orange High School, 56, and then Villa Park High School, 61. At the bottom, those are the number of new students coming into OUSD. So again, those could be students moving into the area. It could be students coming out of a private kinder through 8th grade and then going to the comprehensive high school. So when we look at those numbers, 55 for Canyon, 45 for El Medina, 105 for Orange, and 85 for Villa Park. If we just take these numbers alone, there's 290 on this one slide. That is, if we take the amount of ADA they will generate, which is $12,424, that is $3.6 million for the district that those students are generating just from the Attract and Retain program and what we're doing at our high schools. Again, and this is a team effort. Our teachers, our administrators, everything they're doing to innovate and create programs that are unique to OUSD.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So these are attract numbers. What about the retain numbers? Are we retaining the same amount?
Well, and I think, and I don't know if Mr. Rivera wants to talk about that, but you should have a document there.
I'm going to be covering that.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
He'll cover that later. But we do have some information on that. And then we are looking at.
Excuse me, I still want to,
Oh.
I'm still kind of clarify this. So 77 students are inter-district and 55 are, let's say for Canyon, 77 are inter-district and then 55 are new. Aren't inter-district transfers new?
Some of them will be. So if they're 9th graders and they're an inter-district transfer that year for the first time, then they're a new student and an inter-district transfer. But we have a lot of inter-district transfers that will continue from 9th to 10th all the way to 12th grade. So if they're continuing inter-district transfer, then they won't be included in that new student number.
So one of the reports that I run every year is I want to know all the new students coming to the district. So they could be coming as a permit for the first time. They could be coming from a private school, from outside the district on a charter school, or that they've just enrolled, they've moved into the community. So this number down here means these are all the new faces to the district that were not here the year before. So when we take a look at those new faces, that's 290. That's $3.6 million. In addition to that, which we did not quantify because we need to go through the data, is that we have 77 kids coming in from outside our boundaries to go to Canyon. It could be that they were there in the middle school or the middle school that they were at, and now they're continuing to Canyon. So we want to make sure that we're not double counting those numbers. But yes, this is a subset of this, but it also could mean that we just have more families coming into our community. So we need to separate the two numbers. But for one thing that we're certain of, new faces to the district, we have 290 at the high school, and that's $3.6 million. Did that answer your question?
Yep. Thank you.
Okay.
Question, Madam President.
I believe Mr. Ortega has a question. Mr. Ortega?
Yes, so what's been our decline in enrollment over the last several years?
Going back, I have a chart here. Going back prior to 1819, we were declining between 5 to 600 students per year.
Okay, so now these numbers showing are aside from that and inclusive of coming in.
So our current enrollment decline is somewhere around 219. And we know that number, that's our most recent number at the end of month 1. And we are still having students enroll. So when we pull the information, the CalPADS information in October, then we'll be able to give you the most recent counts, but we expect that number to be hovering around 200. So the level of decline that you're seeing in the slides coming up is about half of what it was.
Okay, thank you.
So I just want to make sure I understand. So the 105 new students to OUSD that are going to Orange High School, that's just 105. They could have come from private school, they could have come from homeschool, they could have come from charter school, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's 105 new faces.
Right, they weren't with us last year.
Never been in Orange Unified and are brand new.
Correct.
That's impressive.
Yeah. And then part of that attract and retain is we're looking to continue to expand program offerings. And I brought 2 examples. First, I know a lot of you were at the Running Springs celebration. They are now World School for the primary years program. We would like to develop that middle school program so they become a middle year program as well. So that's part of the IB program. That way there is a strong TK through 12th grade pathway because Canyon High School already has the diploma program, which they call DP. So by offering this, and we're tentatively looking at about 60 additional students for the 23-24 school year, and then another 60 for the 24-25 school year. This would allow parental choice for 7th and 8th grade in Anaheim Hills. We were looking at offering opportunities to take Spanish 1 and Spanish 2, which are high school courses. The Running Spring students already are taking Spanish. They have a 30-minute course per week. So this would allow them to take the full year Spanish that they've had that coursework. We would look at offering open access to all honors coursework, developing that middle years program, having that connection. And as we work with our demographers right now in the 1 mile radius of Running Springs, we have 173 students that are middle school aged that would be potentially able to come to that program if they would like. This wouldn't change the boundaries for Anaheim Hills. It would just be an additional offering in the Anaheim Hills boundary. So we are anticipating having a lottery on January 24th where parents can hear about the program and then complete a lottery card. And Running Spring students would have the first opportunity, priority to go into the lottery. We're going to start promoting the program and getting information out about this, but we are excited about this potential growth opportunity for the school and again for giving that parental choice to the families in Anaheim Hills.
Mr. Urban?
Yes.
I just want to say I am delighted to see the open access to honors courses included in here. And so then are we talking about at middle school and at high school?
Yeah, for the high school, for the most part, there's open access to AP now. So if students want to try, they are given that opportunity. And for our middle schools, with the exception of math, which has some testing, yeah, just to make sure they have the ability, but we want to open up completely open access to honors. So anyone that wants to try could have that opportunity to try. And that would give them that opportunity when they get to high school to continue that. And IB, International Baccalaureate, is really, when we look at it, it could be an AP alternative. So you can have that IB curriculum and that IB push when you get to high school and get that IB diploma and getting the college credit just like an AP. So we want to make sure that parents can see that opportunity. This is just another opportunity for a gate or advancement.
Thank you.
I have a question about
Yes.
the developing the middle years IB program. I know the process to develop the elementary school one was quite
Extensive.
extensive, right? Is that kind of the same thing for the middle year project one? Is there a certain period of time you have to be implementing it before you're considered?
Yes, so it works.
Okay.
It's going to work very similarly. So we have to have everything in place for a significant amount of time where we put in an application to show that we've been doing the work. So as long as we can show we've been doing the work and built it out, then we can apply for the status. So it will take time, and it is a different philosophy with middle school. It's a kind of a philosophy that all teachers would teach IB, and it has thematic units very similar to the elementary side of the house, but it is teaching that that inquiry-based instruction, project-based work. They typically have a culminating project at the end of their middle years program that they have to present. So that would be something that we'd be working on, kind of what that would look like, and maybe having a community presentation where they get to present to the community. But those are things we'll definitely be building out. So that's like a passion project. Yeah.
Oh, I think this is great. Yesterday, Trustee Moffett and I were at the celebration, and there were so many parents there, and they were so excited. I stayed and talked to a few of them, and they're looking forward to it. And I think it's going to create continuity between the elementary school, middle, and high school for this, so they stay in this entire program. My question is, if they are at Running Springs, and is it an option to not be in the IB program, or is it a whole school IB program?
It's basically a whole school program. It's kind of like our AVID program in the elementary or middle school. It's more, well, elementary, I'll say. It's more of a philosophy on how to teach the curriculum. And we're using the same curriculum, but it's kind of the IB philosophy. Middle school would be very similar. So it's a middle school philosophy on teaching, looking at those thematic units, teaching through inquiry and project-based learning. You wouldn't have an IB course, it's all IB. When you get to the high school, your 11th grade year, you get to start taking IB coursework that is could be taken for college credit if you pass that IB exam. But that will start happening at 11th grade, where you get to actually designate something as an IB course.
I look forward to strengthening the program at the high school as well.
And that's part of its complete alignment through TK through 12th grade.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I was just going to say, they had some student speakers there yesterday. They were all just fantastic. They did such a good job. And one of the student speakers was a little second grader. She was so tiny. She had this little tiny business suit on. She was so adorable. Taking it very seriously.
Yes.
It was so cute.
Yeah, her IB learner profile was caring, and she exemplifies caring.
So cute.
Yeah. And then we are also looking at expanding dual immersion offerings. There is a current initiative of, with 2030 having offering multiple opportunities for a second language. So we are looking at offering another dual immersion opportunity in OUSD. So we're putting together a dual immersion task force. This will be the 4th dual immersion pathway. So we'll be getting information out. We'll be looking for interested parties to be on the task force. We're going to be developing a survey that will go out to the community and really engaging on what the language preference would be for our community and where they would like to see that offering. Considering that it does have to be the TK through 12th grade pathway. So those are things that we have to consider as we're developing a new program.
Mr. Irwin, we have 1 Mandarin program, 2 Spanish immersion, and what's the other one?
Well, no, this would be the opportunity to have a 4th.
Oh, this.
So we'd be looking at a 4th program, and there's lots of different programs out there. We can look at the ones we already have, or there's other languages, like in our general area, there's Korean, Vietnamese. So we'll see what the community, when we're looking at dual immersion, we're looking at, is there what is the amount of native speakers you have to that language, because that's an important component to the dual immersion pathway. So we'll be looking at all of that, the home language survey data, as well as the survey data to come to a determination about where and what language.
And one other question. Jordan has kind of 2 immersions. I mean, it's technology and language. So do we call that like, what do we call it?
Tri-immersion? Yeah, no, they are integrating computer science in with the Spanish and English instruction. And this year in 3rd grade, they're doing the computer science in the Spanish language classrooms. So absolutely, they're learning basically 3 languages. They're learning computer science, the C++ language. They're learning their Spanish and their English.
You know, I'm not going to take much time, but I have to tell you, I was with my grandson He's in 3rd grade now. And so he has homework, and sometimes like after school, oh, I don't want to do my homework, do something else instead, not right now. Well, now he has his homework on the computer. He goes, I'm going to do my homework.
Yeah.
And he just stuck himself up there and did it in a flash. So, nice.
Great.
Trustee Erickson?
I do. I have a question just about the dual immersion, because I know one of the challenges with the dual immersion is finding qualified instructors and the pool of instructors. So what kinds of, I know you mentioned the Korean program of Vietnamese, is it a joint Korean and Vietnamese?
No, those are
Oh,
different.
they're
Those are just some
different, okay.
examples of language programs that are in Orange County that are currently existing.
Okay.
I know there's been a lot of interest in French possibly, so there's a lot of community interest. So we just want to kind of narrow down what the community wants and kind of determine where that could be ideally located.
But I assume you'll be considering obviously the
The-
availability.
Absolutely. We do
Yeah.
need to take that into consideration because teachers that are doing dual immersion, the target language, they have to have a BCLAD, which is a specialized certification that they must possess in that language.
So I was talking to a trustee over in Anaheim High School District, and I think it was their Vietnamese immersion program, they were having trouble finding. So,
Yeah.
we don't want to have something and then not be able to do it right.
Absolutely. And that's part of that task force is looking at what's out there because there are programs that are developing teachers with their BCLADs so we can develop those partnerships. Like I know we do work with programs in Irvine that have the Mandarin program to try to, get teachers for our program. So we'll be having to look at what programs are out there that we could develop teachers in those areas.
Great. I'm so excited to hear about a 4th program.
There's also opportunities to work with higher education, to partner, to get
Qualified.
native qualified speaking teachers, because they also have those certification programs. So depending on what language that is determined that the community would like to see, then we can connect with the local universities to see what we can do to recruit their teachers.
Okay.
Trustee Page has a question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
You mentioned that our dual immersion programs are TK to high school.
Some of them, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was going to ask, are there plans to add TK in Mandarin?
I believe that's something that we've definitely has been in discussion. So right now, TK, we have actually PK and TK through Jordan. That's dual. We are working on the one at California, and then I know that there are plans for Fletcher. Again, it's looking at that language, that BCLAD. So we'll be, but it is definitely something Mrs. Pelly has been wanting to focus on. So we are looking in that direction. And then right now, the Mandarin program is going through 11th grade, so they're all the way up through Villa Park. The California program is now in 7th grade, and they are taking Spanish in science, history, and then they have their world language, their Spanish for Spanish speakers course. And then Jordan is up through 3rd grade this year.
Up through 3rd grade?
Yeah, their highest grade of their cohort is in 3rd grade.
Oh,
So
okay.
the next year they'll move to 4th and on up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Irvin, for all your hard work.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
He
you.
is the Executive Director of Innovation, so he earned that title for sure.
Thank you.
So before we start talking about numbers, engaging communications is an important element of attract and retain. Mr. Irvin and I and Mrs. Brake meet every week to talk about strategies. We talk about program, we talk about marketing, we talk about the numbers. So, so an important element of this is our effective communication. So whether we're live streaming a football game, live streaming a board meeting, taking pictures, doing videos, everything that has been developed over the last 4 years has been because we have established a communication department that has done yeoman's work in helping communicate a message about our programs, helping us message, and that has been an element to our success. So I don't believe Mrs. Brake is here tonight, but I commend her leadership and her team for making a significant difference in the work that we're doing. So what did we inherit? So when I came here 4 years ago, about 4.5 years ago, I saw that there was a consistent decline of birth rates. So over the last 20 some odd years, we've declined by over 1,000 births per year. So just to remind you all what this means. When you have a birth in the hospital, they report to the state that child, where that child resides. These are the numbers, or all the residents that are in, that belong to our district. So regardless of the hospital they went to, these are the births. And you can see annually, these numbers have been steadily declining. So the problem that we had, and this is going to a question Mr. Ortega asked, is what has been our enrollment decline? So you can see leading into the Attract and Retain program, we were 500 to 600 decline. Since then, we've been able to subside these numbers. And actually, if you look at the last two columns, you can see what our budget was. We had budgeted conservatively 361, and we are at 219. So we have more students than we projected, and that number continues to rise. So we will bring back that information for you after we capture our CalPADS information, which is in early October, and give you an update of how we're doing. But you can see the level of decline is significantly been changed. In your packet, I provided a supplement document which has CPAD information or CalPAD information for the largest districts in Orange County. It's titled Largest K-12 School Districts in Orange County. And you can see by looking at that document what the impact of enrollment decline is between 1920 and 2122 in terms of an amount and percentage.
Thank you.
The document,
Yeah.
Mrs. Erickson, it looks like this. So you can see that we have one of the lowest levels of enrollment decline. So we're able to attract and retain a lot of our students because they're not leaving us. So that goes back to a question, Mrs. Rumsey, that you asked is, are we retaining kids? Yes, you can see that we have a large percentage of retention in our community.
So just to clarify, so people understand, with declining enrollment's an issue everywhere, all across the entire county. It looks like every single large district in Orange County is declining. It's just a question of by how much.
Correct.
And so based upon the birth rates, based upon the demographic studies, we should be losing more students. And so we're losing less. And looks like we're the lowest, second lowest in the county, maybe third lowest. So just so people understand, declining enrollment is not an issue of, quality of public education. It's a matter of demographics and numbers.
Yeah,
And
fewer
everybody's
births.
experiencing it.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's cited by the fewer births.
Right.
That's a good point. The number of permits. So before Attract and Retain, we had in the gold bars, you can see the number of permits by year. These are students that were wanting to go to another district. So you can see that the number was on an upward trend. The blue bar showed the number of permits coming into the district. So you can see up to 1819 that we had a net loss, and that net loss parallel our enrollment decline as a district. So if you were to ask me, well, how many kids are we losing on a regular basis? 500 to 600. Well, that's the 500 to 600 because of the net loss in permits. Now, when we look at what has been the impact of Attract and Retain, you can see that we've seen an immediate impact. We're no longer having 1,500 permits. That number has been cut down to, let's say, 1,100, in the 1,100 range. The number of permits that we have coming in has been sustained. And the net loss, we're down to, last year was 287. This year's number, because we're pulling the information, we generally don't have this information till late October, early November. So we can provide you that, but it does show there's been a significant improvement. No, we're pulling that information right now. So in summary, what has happened? So before the attract and retain, you can see the number of permits going out. So elementary 647, and then how many permits were coming in, 335. So that was a net loss. Then last year's information, you can see that we drastically reduced the number of permits going out by, almost a couple hundred. And we have all the data for last year. When we take, okay, what's the net change? The net change is that we've been able to reduce the number of permits that are leaving the district by 81%, which is phenomenal.
Can I just ask a question too? Our policy for OUSD though is when people do ask for permits, they are granted them to leave. So it's not like we're forcing them to stay, right?
You make an excellent point. Our policy isn't to stop parent choice.
Right.
If you want to leave, you're welcome to leave. What we're saying is that when we are showing the parents the information about our programs and what we have to offer, they're not leaving, they're staying.
So, but to be clear, our policy in OUSD is if you want to leave, you can leave.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So these numbers are not being influenced because we just have a hard, we're going to deny policy. That's not our policy. Our policy is that we allow parents to leave, allow parent choice, but we're seeing a significant increase in the number of kids coming into our district.
On the other hand, Mr. Rivera, do all districts have similar policies?
No. No, there's districts that have a hard policy of denying permits and requiring you go through the appeal process and go to the county. But that is not our process.
Do you know that, do most do this or most do that, or is it an even split, or is it all over the map, or?
Depends on the level of enrollment decline for that district and the severity of their finances. Are they in fiscal distress? They tend to be more stringent about denying permits. And some districts have had a long policy of just denying permits and requiring parents to go through a long process. So as we compare ourselves as to, let's say we didn't have the attract and retain. Let's say we just continued with status quo. The blue bar shows what our demographer was projecting, and then the orange is what we realized. So you can see in 18-19 that we were pretty much in the same spot. What we were projecting and what they were projecting. And then in 19-20, we did better than the projection. I'm going to discount 2021 because of the pandemic. There was a lot of changes. No one's projections were accurate. But if you take a look at the following year and this year, you can see we outperformed our projections. When I added all the numbers here as to the net increases and decreases, it totals 570. So what is our average cost our average funding per student? Ms. Balsara gave me the number. So we can see that the impact, if we did nothing versus that we implemented a program, we see that benefit being $6 million. And that number is going to be rising as we continue with our programs and as we fill the need that concerns and demands of our parents with programs. So we want to transition now to talk about state facility funding. I know it's been several years since we provided the board with a presentation. I think there's 3 or 4 members that may have never received a report. So this is part, facility funding 101 to give you a broad brush of what, how we qualify for funding. We have our 2 consultants here, Mrs. Zimmerman and Mrs. Vega, to talk about the program, the state program, what are the qualifying factors, and also what monies have we applied for. Our consultants are with Baker Nowicki and the DLR group.
Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Julie Zimmerman, and this is Kate Vega. And as David said, we are with DLR Group Baker Nowicki. I have had the pleasure of working with your school district since 2003. I've obtained over $2 billion in state funding, working closely with Kate through the state program. And I'm very happy to be here this evening to talk to you about your projects. I also want to tell you that I am a proud graduate and have attended 5 of your schools in my childhood, so go Vanguards. It's been a wonderful life. I really enjoy being here. And every time I come to visit with David and Scott, I tell them I've come home and it feels so good. Kate and I live in Riverside County and we both enjoy Orange County very much, so thank you. So first I want to talk to you about the state school building programs because some people here tonight might not have been a part of the state school building program and understand how it works. So these are the agencies involved in school facility funding. First of all, we have the Division of the State Architect. They're the agency that approves architect drawings for school facilities. We also have California Department of Education. They approve projects and plans for school facilities as well for safe school design. So they're looking at where do you have things located? Do you have a music room next to a library? How's your parking and drop-off area? How large are your school sites? Those are the things that CDE looks at. We take DSA approved plans and we take California Department of Education's approval letters and we go to the Office of Public School Construction and submit for state funding. OPSC, the Office of Public School Construction, is staffed to the State Allocation Board. That's made up of a legislative body as well as Department of Finance, California Department of Education. Representative sits on the board. They are the board that approves projects for funding using state voter approved statewide school bonds. Most recently, that would have been Prop 51 money.
Clarify.
Sure.
So just if anybody's looking at the slide, just so they understand, this is specifically as to matching funds, not the original funds that we fund a project, right?
This is to access state funds for new projects. So modernization of schools.
But the matching portion.
The matching portion comes from the district.
Okay, I'm confused. We do the original
It's just,
funding, saying the same thing.
you're saying the same thing, but the way that they calculate it and the criteria is the district has to provide a match to get the state funds.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
So our bond money is considered the match. That's the reason we can get state funds is because we have local dollars.
Got it. Okay.
We're
So
the
ours
match
are
to the
technically
state.
the matching funds.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
got
just
it.
a different terminology way of looking at it.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Sure. Oh, one thing that I always tell Dave is we have to have DSA and CDE approval in order to access the state program. So every day counts. And he always says, if it's free, it's for me.
we've heard that, yeah.
I think it's brilliant. I never hear it from anybody else. So, okay, so the scope of work that the district has directed the architect for the project is dependent on what your school district is eligible for. Many school districts like yourselves that you just talked about are in declining enrollment. So you do not have eligibility for new construction projects. That means new classroom square footages, new gymnasiums, multi-purpose room. But what you do have eligibility for is for modernization, okay? These are the types of work that could be done in a modernization program. It is a 60-40 program, meaning the state provides 60% and you match it with your local dollars of 40%.
So I just wanted to clarify what the bottom box entailed. So let's pretend that we have a $10 million program. $10 million program means the state's going to give us 60% of that. We have to provide the 40%. 6 million, 4 million. So the first condition of state matching funds is that you actually did the project for the budget that was presented to the state. So if you're presenting a $10 million budget to the state, but you only spent 5, then we're not entitled to all the funds because it's a 60-40. The second condition is that the governing board has the discretion to prioritize the funds and where the funds are going to be committed. The only condition is that we have to have DSA approved plans. So when we talk about matching funds, tonight we're just sharing information. There's no decisions you have to make. But remember, you have the discretion of where the money goes. Okay?
I have a question. Isn't it the case that sometimes those proportions change? And I know it's the case that sometimes the matching fund on the state level doesn't have any money in it. But also, doesn't the match sometimes depend on decision-making at that local time, at that recent time?
Well, first of all, we're just talking about the modernization program. In 1998, when the program first came out, it was 80-20. The state realized that the money was going quickly. So 5 years after the program started, they changed it to a 60-40. Keep in mind, the 60-40 has nothing to do with the cost of your project. It has to do with what you're eligible for. So we look at things that, again, that are modernization work, such as demolishing and replacing portables with permanent classrooms that a lot of districts like, and, you know, doing lighting, carpet, painting, and things like that.
But the 60-40 has been in place since like early 2000s?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
The new construction program is 50-50, but we're only talking about modernization tonight. I hope that answers your question.
Yes.
Okay. So where are we with your Measure S projects? El Medina High School is a project that we submitted in 2018. The previous governor and the current governor, in their infinite wisdom, decided to not fund projects every month at the state allocation board. Instead, they fund them twice a year. So we diligently submitted our projects to the state, but the state's holding projects and only funding twice a year based on when they go and sell their bonds. It usually happens in the winter and the spring of every year. So El Medina High School is eligible for $17 million. I submitted the Fred Kelly Stadium project for that school, and we've exhausted all the modernization that's eligible at that site. And that money can be used on any high priority capital improvement project that is modernization related. So no new square footage, but touching the classrooms.
And how much was that we got from Fred Kelly renovations?
The money hasn't been released yet, and I'll be talking about that in a moment, but it's 17.6 million.
So 17.
17. So let me address a question that you may have. Fred Kelly Stadium is on the footprint for El Medina. And I was here in May of 18, had, I think, our first meeting that we talked about eligibility, funding. So we both agreed it made a lot of sense for us to submit an application because we saw the application, the fact that funding was going to dry up. And if we had waited for the El Medina STEM Center, we were not going to be in line for money, or we were going to have to wait a long time. So that's why we filed an application for Kelly Stadium. And we're going to show you shortly the funding that we're waiting for. So the reason that we filed for Kelly Stadium is to be in the front of the line, not in the back of the line, and get access to funds quicker. It was just a business decision.
Okay, so you all said that we filed for El Medina, but what you meant was we filed for Kelly Stadium.
Project was for Fred Kelly. The next project is Orange High School. We submitted that a few months earlier in 2018. This campus is eligible for over 50-year pupil grants, and so we were able to get additional funding for that, meaning instead of $5,000 per pupil, we were able to get $7,000. And multiplying that by the number of students in the project, it turned out to be quite quite a bit of money. For this project, I believe that we're looking at 6.5 million, but we'll be showing you a slide in a moment. We did not exhaust all of the eligibility at Orange High, so with your phase 2 work, we can come back and apply for additional funding for modernization. Fletcher. This is a project that we submitted with, it was the HVAC project. You already had DSA approval. Kate and I ran up to the state. We got Department of Education approval. We were able to get in line for funding, and that is awaiting apportionment as well. And there's still money available for the next project. Villa Park and also Canyon. These projects were submitted in 2019. And that was just about when the state ran out of money. And so they came up with what is called the projects beyond bonding capacity. So these two projects sit on a different list at OPSC. The good news is because the governor has all of that money coming into school districts, we're able to use that general fund money is going to pay for Villa Park and Canyon quicker than we were anticipating. Canyon High School, that we reconfigured the admin into a kitchen, we constructed a new admin wing, and again, this project is moving up the list and eventually it will be funded. So here's a table of the projects at each of the high schools. As I mentioned, the first 3 projects are pending issuance. So they've already been approved by the State Allocation Board. And the State Allocation Board is waiting for money from the general fund to come in to fund those. Canyon High and Villa Park are on a different list, and they're on page 2 of 15 and page 4 of 15. So you stand a very good chance of getting funding for Canyon High and Villa Park as well. Again, school sites that have buildings over 50 years are eligible to not only get additional grants, but you can also get money for utilities. So expanding your utilities to those overage buildings provides for additional funding as well. I think in your Friday memo, Friday flyer, you're going to be getting detailed information about funding that's available for all your school sites. It's shown here for the elementary, the middle, the high schools, and the charter schools. This is remaining mod eligibility funding. Again, requires DSA approved plans.
So not this Friday, but next Friday, you'll receive a spreadsheet that will show our eligibility, the 60%, and then what our 40% match would be. That'll be broken down by site and will be reconciled to these numbers that you see here.
Can I ask a question then? So, for instance, El Medina STEM Center, we budget it, we pay for it with Measure S dollars. We do, Orange Unified through Measure S dollars, right? And then you go in, you do the application, and then whatever is determined comes back to us. Not on the STEM Center, that's a bad example, but on the Fred Kelly Stadium. So we expended the money, and then we have to do the application, so we hope to get that reimbursement then, basically.
So part of the work is once we are out of DSA, we sit down and there's a reconciliation. And what Julie is exceptional at is looking at how we can get more money. Under what conditions can we get more money? So then she files an application on our behalf. And at Kelly Stadium, we started off at, what, 11 million, and then was finally approved at 17. So,
Wow.
So Julie's good at what she does. Let's just summarize. So we go through an
She's a
audit
vanguard,
process.
what do you expect?
So we go through a process to make sure that we maximize our revenues with our applications. And then the rest of it is we're waiting on funding. So we try to do this as quickly as possible so that way we can be in the front of the line.
So then when we were doing the Measure S plans, I know that a lot of, we had originally thought we would do some new construction and some of it was converted to modernization, and that was specifically so we could maximize those matching funds, right?
I think there was some of that occurred. So at Orange specifically, because we had to do all the utilities before we could put in the building. So what Julie was referencing about the additional monies that we can qualify for the utilities and And at Orange High, there's a lot of 50-year-old buildings plus. So the $6.5 million that we're going to get for Orange is simply the utility for the first increment, which was just the utility portion, not the buildings, just the utilities. So part of this is that we're looking to see, we're going to come up with our plans. But then in collaboration with Julie, we can see how we can maximize our revenues. If it's free, it's for me. Just keep saying that.
We say it all the time. It runs through my head at night.
Sorry, also what we're going to provide you is because of the long-term relationship that we had with Julie, is that we've applied for grants in the past. I think as far as 2005, 2006. So we're going to provide you a list of what those grants were that we filed and for which projects and how much in totality. I think in the past with our working relationship outside of this, that we probably $25 million in state matching funds for our past projects. So you'll expect to receive that within the next week or two.
Matching funds have to go to facilities improvements. Right. Okay.
And for you, it's modernization eligible work.
Specifically modernization. Yeah. Okay.
I think that's it for me. So I'm going to turn it over to Kate, and she's going to talk to you about the Littles program.
Good evening. So I wanted to start off by sharing the history of the program. This program came to us because of the requirement to have transitional kindergarten implemented in all districts by 2025. It's a different program than the program that Julie has just been talking about. It's a different pot of money and a different way of applying the money. It's not date order. It is something called preference points. So the previous program, rounds 1 and 2, had $100 million that were put into the pot of money. They received, as you can see on the slide, they were shown a great need for kindergarten facilities at this point only. They split the $100 million into 2 rounds, and the first round, all of the funding went to financial hardship districts. Round 2, most of the money went to financial hardship districts. We are now in the current program. This is where we've just added transitional kindergarten and preschool to the types of facilities that can be either modernized or retrofitted or constructed new. This program got $490 million put into the pot. We have just closed round 3, and the state allocation board has just awarded some of that, $225 million, which is how much of that $490 million was set aside for round 3. What's interesting about this, and part of the reason for applying for this program, is that you can see that there's a huge demand for this. $1.5 billion of that $225 that were available were asked for in projects. That's a huge difference. Next slide, sorry. We're now coming up on round 4, which got, partly because of the huge demand that we've seen, an additional $100 million put into the pot. So round 4 is going to have $350 million in funding available. I'm going to kind of step back and talk a little bit about how these projects are getting funded. So I mentioned preference points. Preference points, you get 40 preference points if you're a financial hardship district. You can get up to an additional 40 points based on your free and reduced lunch percentage. In round 2, we saw that the smallest or the only non-financial hardship districts had 85% free and reduced lunch percentage, which garnered them 25 preference points. Orange Unified has 38.8%. We did apply in round 3 for funding for one project. We were just told that we didn't have any preference points, so we will not be funded in round 3. However, I think what we can see is that by applying for this program, it demonstrates the great need for transitional kindergarten, preschool, and full-day kindergarten space facilities. And that, in so much that the governor has already had a set aside, it's not guaranteed, but there's a set aside for an additional round after round 4 for $550 million. The next slide just talks a little bit about the project that we did submit. It was for $487,000, and a little bit about the preference points. And I believe in your handout, there may also be a chart that kind of goes down the different percentages and how many preference points you get for each of those.
I have a question. What constitutes financial hardship?
It's your bonded indebtedness. So
if we are responsible, then we're being penalized?
They don't see it that way. It's that there's a need for funding to meet this requirement to have full-day transitional kindergarten, preschool, and full-day kindergarten at those districts that cannot afford them. I guess it's yes and no.
I agree with you. We are being
Yeah.
punished because we're being fiscally solvent. And that, go back to the video of how much work we're doing.
Right.
And we're not relying on taxpayer indebtedness to do this work. So it's hard to feel like it's hard to feel that that we are being punished because of our position. And the fact, again, the school districts that receive the money, I'm like a broken record, it's the concentration grant districts, the high UPP counts. So we are not in that category because we have a diverse district. And, but if we were 2 districts, we would qualify and we would see some funding. Well, thank you so much. In our colleagues here, they're going to be presenting at cash. So some of the information that you're seeing, you get a preview compared to what is going to be presented at cash. So let's talk about Measure S bond tax rates. This is hot off the press. So here's the summary of our bond program. The $288 million in voter approved, which was at 62.5%. Series A, we issued at a ratio of 1.82 to 1. In other words, if you borrow $100, you're going to pay back 182. That's what that number means. Series B, we were at 1.98. And you can see that we've been well below in our assessed values, below the $29 threshold. Here's an excerpt of the tax statement. I'm not going to read it to you. It's just to remind you of our commitment to $29. Here is the table that shows the assessed values. If you go to the bottom of the table, you can see that this year the assessed values increased by 6.62%, which is far higher than the 4% that we were budgeting. Our tax rates from the auditor controller, 1609 for Series A, which was 188 million. 9.46 for Series B, the 100 million that we sold in June, for a collective rate of 25.55. I apologize, but we just received this document, and as part of your supplement is our Mr. Carty updated our worksheet as to the level of savings to the taxpayers since we're below the $29 rate. You've seen this document before. Now it's updated for the last issuance. So we're up to $24.5 million of savings to the taxpayers because we've been able to successfully keep our tax rate below $29. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Good news. $24 million.
So Mr. Harvey has some renderings for you to talk about phase 2 of our projects. You have a copy, a large printout copy of those renderings. And he will walk you through these last dozen steps or dozen slides or so.
Excuse me, Mr. Rivera, could I ask a question on that last slide?
Yes.
Just looking down this chart and comparing the year-to-year actual tax rate levied, it swings a lot. It varies a lot. 26, 22, 16, 16, 25. What's just like in shorthand, what accounts for that huge swing of variation?
So we had budgeted a 4%. The initial years, we had budgeted 2% assessed value growth. And then in the out years, we had projected a 4% assessed value growth. So when the auditor controller calculates this, they see how much we have grown in our assessed values.
Okay.
Right? And we had structured the program to ensure that we were going to be below the $29 in the first year, because we took our own funds, internal funds, to pay for all the architects, to pay for all the soft costs, to make sure that we weren't burdening our taxpayers. So the first year we saved $10 million because we used our internal funds and then just reimbursed ourselves. So for that year, there was no debt owed by the taxpayers. We bared that debt because of how we handled that transaction. So each year, when you look at the tax savings, that's the delta between the tax rate and the tax rate and the $29. So if you see the rate going down, it's because of the conservative nature of our projections that was ensuring, and the fact that assessed values were growing, that we were able to reduce the rates in generating more savings for our taxpayers.
And did that also, was it also affected because of the huge run-up in
Especially last year.
home prices?
Especially last year, because the way that the assessed values are recorded, it's January to December.
Okay.
So January of 21 to December of 21, those are reported now in the summer months. So we had a double-digit growth in property transaction, high sales. So double digits in terms of the number of sales. So we see that benefit. That's why the increase in assessed values was at 6.62% versus a normal year of 4%. And if you look at the chart, you can see that a 4% year is really a slow year for us. Over the last 22, 23 years, we've been close to 5% on average.
So now the savings is tailing off because the price increases have sort of moderated some?
Well, the reason that the tax rate is increasing, because we had $100 million of issuance last June. So now they have to cover that debt.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. The other thing I'd like to add for you, just for your information, we were very fortunate with our timing of our bond sale. As I'm talking to Mr. Cardy and he's sharing some of the experiences, we were able to pull all $100 million of our authorizations. Some districts are being limited in what they can pull out because of what their assessed tax rate, what they promised the taxpayers, plus the fact that you have the rising interest rates. So if we would have waited 3 or 4 months, the tax rates, the interest rates that we would be paying could have been nearly double. So we're very fortunate, and that's showing you that's reflected in the tax rates that you see. Mr. Harvey?
Congrats. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions before we go on? Is Mr. Trustee Ortega here? Oh.
I did get a message that he dropped off, and I know he's trying to reconnect with both Max and Tam behind the scenes. So
I just want to make sure that we include him in the conversation.
yeah, I think he's trying to get back on.
Okay, thank you.
Well, good evening, Madam President Yamasaki, distinguished board members, Dr. Hanson, Executive Cabinet, staff, and community members. Tonight, I'll be giving you a brief update on Phase 2 of Measure S, which will begin construction next month. Exciting. And I have Roy Lorenzo here with me. He's our program manager to answer any questions. So just in case at the end or during each of the slides, feel free to ask us any questions. Also, I wanted to give an opinion on the fact that they will only give money to modernization because we're in declining enrollment. But some of the buildings, when we assess them with DSA, need full replacement. They no longer qualify for modernization because you have to put so much modernization money into them that the cost of it overrides what it would cost to even build a new building. So it makes no sense.
Do these
That's
people
my-
talk to each other?
No. Well, they do, but not really, not the legislative end, because DSA is going to manage code. They're not going to manage the value of the project. The value comes from other people, OPSC, other departments within the same state, right? But they can never see on the same page as to determining what funding eligibility should be, because declining enrollment is everybody. So you have to take that away if you're going to give fair equity to these schools that need new buildings, because it really doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's just my opinion.
All right.
To quickly summarize the status of our Phase 1 projects, we have occupied all 4 science centers and the other buildings, snack buildings and kitchens, and have also opened the new kitchen space at Canyon, which we talked about, as of September 19th. So with all facilities now in use by our staff and students, this means we have now realized the dream that we had over a decade ago. New STEM facilities, new restrooms, updated infrastructure, better lighting, enhanced landscaping, easier accessibility, and much more. So that's just a quick summary. We are just about to have a kickoff. We've opened the kitchen to the students, but we're going to have a little celebration, open house in a few days, actually next week. So this is the new kitchen and serving area at Canyon High School. Very hard to imagine this once housed our entire administrative staff and counseling offices for the high school. It looks completely different. The state-of-the-art kitchen features a pizza oven, industrial steamers, a combination oven that can cook up to 3 20-pound turkeys at once. Dave, don't get too excited. Where are you? Okay. The serving area looks much like a college food court with a full catering setup and digital monitors showing our menu options. So it gives our facility a very modern feel, and you can see that from the pictures here. In terms of our updated schedule, it is so satisfying after a very long planning process to reach the bid procurement stage of Measure S Phase 2. Considering getting through DSA during a pandemic and bidding during a time of extreme inflation, we have had a very productive value engineering process. And for those that don't know what value engineering means, it basically means we're going to take all the plans and specifications for the project and try to reduce as much budget as we can without completely changing the projects or removing items from the project. So that's what we try to do. In extreme situations, we may have to change, really change our scope of work, take out buildings, things like that. But we haven't experienced that on every level. We have experienced some reduction in the scopes, but nothing to the point where it's going to change what we said we were going to deliver to the community.
I have a question, if
Yes.
you don't mind. Can you give us examples of value engineering?
Sure. So, for example, glazing glass, costs a lot of money, and we talked about security and wanting to make a more secure high school classroom or high school administration building, wherever it is that people are going through, and reducing some of that glass, reducing some of that, the areas that people could see in if they were an active shooter situation, to solid doors, for example, instead of glass doors. That saves us money. Also, you could change the type of material, the type of metal in your railing is just an example. Instead of going with a very ornate railing that has lighting in it, you just go with a galvanized railing, and it looks the same and it functions the same. Well, it doesn't look the same, but it functions the same for sure, and you can save money in that way. There are various other ways you can save money. Taking out, paneling that's expensive, concrete paneling, and doing standard stucco. Those are all saving methods, just for examples. There's a lot more. Roy, do you have any? Okay. All right.
Thank you.
And then although our projects have to be slightly adjusted during this time because of inflation, the majority of what we promised, like we said, is being delivered. And we'll start construction in a month, as it shows here. So moving on to the individual phase 2 projects, we'll briefly go over the status and details of the construction scope of work for each of the high schools. For Villa Park, we're pleased to announce we opened the bids on September 21st for our first bid under phase 2 that we're going forward with. And we'll be bringing that bid now that fits completely within our budget constraints for board review and potential award on October 20th. Any questions about that process? And I will show you just the scope of work. Here's an overhead look of the new 2-story, 18 classroom building. It's a 3,600 square foot building that will be built in the footprint of the existing 500 building at Villa Park High School. The 500 building housing the previous science labs for the school will be demolished as part of the project. Also included in the scope of work will be the removal of 2 staircases in the front of the school, new fencing to close in the campus and create a single point of entry, the construction of new staircases in the rear, so actually the rear staircases will be removed as well and replaced, and the addition of a passenger elevator and the modernization of 6 restrooms. So you can see here the new building, the floor plan for both floors, and the color coding there. It's also in your packet in a bigger version, and there's some other renderings in your packet. It will sit just to the side of the new science building, as you can see here in the rendering. At Orange High School, the value engineering process is completed, and the project is out to bid as of last week. Our 2 job walks with our potential contractors were completed on September 23rd and 26th. And as a reminder, this is a rebid of the initial bid, and that was opened in May. But due to budget constraints and only one bidder, we decided to go to our drawing board and create a plan that we believe could be bid within our budget and attract multiple contractors to bid. So we're hoping for the same thing to happen in the next coming weeks and bring you this project for board review on November 17th. And here's an overhead look at the 2-story 6 classroom building and the student services section, totaling just over 26,000 square feet that will be built in the footprint of the existing 100-200 building at Orange High School. So that building will be demolished. And if you're for reference, if you're going to the front of the school, it's the building that everybody enters in to get through administration. It's kind of an iconic corner building. So it's going to be interesting to see that go down, obviously, and then be built up. So we'll show you some renderings in your packet there. They're not in this presentation, but that will show the alumni corner. That is something that connects the campus to the community in general, has architecture that connects it to both the circle area in the old town portion of the city, as well as Chapman University.
So this will basically be right there on the corner, facing
Correct.
out on both streets.
Correct. Right now, there's a large grass area there.
Yes.
That will be replaced with more of a hardscape, and you'll see that in the renderings. So that packet that's in front of you that has the 11 by 17, you'll see that in that packet.
Yeah.
So the new building features a passenger elevator, 4 new large restrooms. Anyone have a question?
I had another question.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Is that okay? Obviously, there's some important stuff housed in that, alumni room, and,
Yes.
that's going to be carefully preserved and
Yes.
put back into perhaps that building?
Yes.
Okay.
You're stealing my thunder, as they would say.
Oh.
But I'll talk about that.
Okay.
Yeah. But it's important, and it was important to a lot of the community. We talked in the Citizens Oversight Committee with some people that are on the Historical Preservation of Orange Committee. And they voiced their opinion that all those artifacts, all those plaques need to be saved and put into the new building, and they will.
Recently we were approached by a person from the community that wanted to donate diplomas and things from a relative who had passed away. And so we still have things coming in.
That's great.
Yeah.
And we'd be happy to display them in the new buildings. I think it connects it with the historical value. It's really important to do that.
Yeah.
And our architects recognize
And
that.
that diploma was from the 40s. It
Wow.
was Orange Union High School District then. So
Wow.
I don't think we have any of that. So that was very interesting.
That's neat. That's definitely an artifact we want to keep. So again, the building features a passenger elevator, 4 new large restrooms, expanded space for our student services staff, the addition of a new Townsend room. The Townsend room houses many of those artifacts you just talked about. So the Townsend room actually has a trophy case that will be replicated, and so that we could see those very old artifacts, and some amazing things in there about Fred Kelly and others that have been in Orange High School and other places in the district as well.
And you know, those kinds of things really do connect that school to the community, because this relative of the person whose diploma it was may or may not have had any particular feeling or connection with Orange High School, but he had enough to make the call to contact us. But now that, you know, that transfer has been made, he'll be connected always to Orange High School.
That's great. And that's what we're trying to do with this new building as well. So the Townsend room, and then we're going to be constructing the Alumni Plaza that I told you about. It's really just a concrete area with brick veneer around it with a flagpole. And you'll see that in your renderings. We'll show you on the next page as well. We'll show you that. So let me show you. Well, I don't have that. I'm sorry. I don't have that in your packet, but it's in the slide because you're trying to condense. But in your packet, you'll see that alumni corner with some of the renderings of the interior of the building as well. And we're going to make some of those renderings available on our website so those that are listening can see that. That's something that we'll do after this meeting.
And we also talked about having each school have like those poster board posters up in the office that could show people as they come in what phase 2 is going to cover, just like we had the pictures of the science centers. So, you know, like construction is going on, the community, the students, the faculty, everybody can see. So those hard posters that we posted in the front of the offices would be great.
They're going to be added as well. So we're doing a new job sign that's going to go up in the next month or so that is in the front of the school. So the phase 1 signs go down, phase 2 signs go up, and a kind of a duplicate of that, but also shows the floor plan on the back. That's what we're proposing to put in the offices. So you could show people the front in the rendering, or you could flip it around and show the floor plan of these buildings or projects. So also it's important to note that the administrative staff, also with student service in the health office, have been temporarily moved to building 300 at Orange High School. They've been in full operations since day 1 of the school year. We moved them over the summer. Signage and security features were added to the building to help students know where to go. Since the main campus entrance is now located on Walnut Street, we needed, you know, signage to show that. New principal Cheryl Anderson and her staff were amazing in this process. So I just want to throw a shout out to her. She was just great in the process. She was new, came in brand new. This is her first office at the school, and it was a temporary office. So she's a great sport about it, and her staff was just really welcoming to our staff and Cummings team coming in and trying to work with them and make it a very easy transition. I think they did a great job, and the staff was just amazing. So I just want to point that out. So moving on to El Medina High School, as a result of market conditions, we've had to delay the start to bidding for El Medina High School Phase 2 so that we could value engineer the project to fit within our budget. After 2 months of planning, we are happy to report we are ready to bid El Medina's project. We have reduced the cost estimate to meet our available budget, and we believe that we're going to deliver an amazing project, or set of projects really, to the community through this Phase 2. With the El Medina set of projects being by far the most impactful of any one campus, and I'll say that again, very impactful. We are extremely excited to bring this to board consideration in January of 2023, just this coming January.
Mr. Harvey, what is it that's about to be rebid?
It's not rebid, it's just we're going to bring it for bid in January, yeah.
Oh.
But it hasn't been bid yet.
Okay,
This is
so
the El
has the
Medina.
value engineering been completed?
The value engineering is completed.
Okay,
So we are ready to bid.
to do the bidding?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's something that we thought about for a long time because the budget consideration on that project, because we're doing so much, we really wanted to make sure that we could fit all these projects within that. We've talked about that with the board, but I think it's important that to let you know that we are ready and we've done a lot of work. So a lot of credit goes out to Cordoba, who's been working with the value engineering with the HED, Harley Ellis Devereaux, is our architect for the project. And so they're used to grandiose designing, and we had to squeeze them down and say, you know, we want to deliver these projects, but no frills. We want to make sure everything looks very good and it's presentable, but we need to save the dollars. So we could talk more about that when we bring the bid forward. And I just wanted to state that when we do bring the bids forward, we're going to have a very, you know, thorough presentation of the floor plans. Tonight is just a quick run through. So here are the renderings of the work planned at Almadena High School. The overall project includes the moderate renovation of 4 two-story buildings, full modernization of the 800 building for career technical education. In your packet, you'll see what programs specifically are in that building. An updated breezeway cover, which is something that Sandra Preciado, the principal, and I talk about almost daily. When are we getting that cover? When are we getting that cover? Well, it's coming. So that will be fully replaced. The pillars and the color will be retained. We'll do some concrete work throughout there. And so the look of the campus will be, or the historical look of the campus will not be changed, but the update of that breezeway cover is such a big deal because it is so dilapidated. In addition, perimeter fencing will be removed from the campus boundaries. Some may be worried about that. Well, now you're just opening our campus. But no, we're moving the steel tube fencing closer to the campus, which you can see on the rendering here on the right-hand side. You can see it closer in your packet. There'll also be some perforated metal paneling with some graphic design on the front to really make the entrance of the school pop. Some of those areas where you have murals now on those walls in the front will be also redone to have different updated murals. And so landscaping in the front of the school, a new digital marquee, things like that to make the school look less aged are planned for this project. And so you could see through all these upgrades, landscaping, like I mentioned, shade protection in the quad area, a full renovation of both sides of the quad. Recently, we took down some portable buildings. This was not planned with Measure S, planned with ESSER monies to get ready for a new secondary quad with shade shelters for students to eat lunch under. Right now, they don't eat in the cafeteria, which if you go in the cafeteria during lunch, there are not many students. They don't eat in there. They eat outside. They want to eat with their friends. They want to walk around. They want to be outside. So there's no real place. So you see them huddling around buildings, eating wherever they can go. So this will give them an opportunity with the ESSER plan to put them under a shade shelter. But also in the quad that's under the Measure S program, there are shade shelters, lighting, and other things planned. Also, there'll be a new stage for the Bell Monument and a new Bell Monument itself for that Victory Bell to be placed under. So that's a big deal for the Almadena community. They really wanted that to happen. So we're going to make that happen. So as you can see, the amount of renovation collectively to the campus touches the most buildings of all of our phase 2 projects. Finally, the plan for Canyon High School is to bid work in the late fall with the bid award up for consideration in the February or March board meeting timeframe. The timing will depend on how other bids are tracking and is spaced out slightly to give our purchasing team time to procure 4 major projects in 5 months. This is a smaller project, so it will time along with the other projects, meaning it's about 12 months where the other projects are more like 20 to 24 months. So that's why it is being bid last, just for an explanation of that. So here is the rendering of the classroom renovation project. It's a full modernization of the building, including upgraded restrooms and a living skills suite, much like the other campuses provided in the Science Center buildings as part of phase 1. We felt it very important to have equal facilities across the board. And we had the space in this building, so we thought it was a good opportunity. We talked to the board about this. We brought an architectural amendment for that add of that living skill spaces, and it was approved by the board. So we're really excited to give equal facilities to all 4 of our comprehensive campuses. And if those that don't know what living skills is, it's a specific suite for our moderate and severe challenged students to have special facilities for their use. But here is a rendering of the new updated classrooms. Now, if you've been inside a Canyon high school classroom, it's cavernous. It has no windows. A lot of them don't. The new Science Center has lots of windows, but this, it doesn't let natural light in. And while we're not trying to create a whole bunch of new glass at the facility, this will be some glass added to the facility to let some light in, which this classroom's never had before.
Thank you, because it's really dark in there.
Yes. So, and then there's some color added, as you can see here, all new ceiling, lighting, fully modernized buildings. But that's the update on Measure S Phase 2. I'll be happy to answer any questions on Measure S or in general, and Mr. Lorenzo can help me as well.
Madam President, I have some questions, and I've asked you these before, so forgive me, but when you look at the Canyon building right now, you have two big buildings that say Canyon in big letters, and they don't match, and the colors don't match. And just recently, I've noticed that with the new shade things with the solar cells, you can't see it anyway. When you drive by, those horizontal lines of the it really blurs out. You can't see, the signage behind. So, yikes! What's going on with that? Are you still thinking about it?
Well, can't do much about the solar canopies. They're up. They're part of our program. We discussed that with the board several times about adding those canopies, both on the roof of the Science Center, which are going to be added this next summer, and in the parking lot. It offsets the utility cost of that campus by over 80%. So that's an important project. So we can't necessarily rip those out unless the board chooses that they would like to do that, and that would reduce our PPA, which we would have to talk
And I'm not
about.
suggesting that or wanting that or anything, but, it was just an unexpected thing to me
Right.
that, it's right there. It's right there where the letters were.
I've driven by there several times, and I think the letters on the building are fine, because the building's a little bit higher up, and the solar panels are lower and a little bit farther to, when you look at it to the left. I think it might be the mural that you're talking about that's blocked.
Yeah, it covers the gym.
Yeah, it's the gym mural. It's
Yeah.
not the new science building. Is
And-
that what you're referring to, Kathy?
Well, I sit kind of low in my car, so maybe I can't
Oh,
see the
okay.
same.
I drive a big car. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Now,
Maybe that's it. I don't know.
It's really funny that you mentioned that, because I talked to a parent the other day and she said, the front looks really better with the solar panels because it covers the Canyon Gym name.
Yeah.
Well,
So-
my most important thing was to see that science, the science
The science,
building.
right.
And they don't cover that. That was
Right.
my main thing. But I did notice that, they painted the gym.
Yeah,
It looks nice.
Yeah.
And you can't, they do, that's the entrance to the gym from that parking lot where those
Yeah,
panels are.
and it was done before
Yeah.
the Science Center was in place, so
Right.
it was, the school requested that mural, they paid for that mural as part of the gym project. We paid, we're in partnership with them to renovate the gym, but that was one thing they really wanted to do, is change out what they had on the top of the gym and put that mural. And we took we sandblasted the side of it to take the mural that was dilapidated down to put in the new mural. So it's always paintable, and that's the good thing about that. The science building is different because those letters are actually installed on the side of the building. So we can always change the mural, and that's a good thing. So we'll take that input back to the school, and maybe we can update that mural or make it less, or just do it a color, or make it less busy so that you don't see Canyon High School here and Canyon High School there. We noticed that right away, but one project was before another, and we were just trying to do our best to support the staff at the school and the athletics teams that wanted that mural there.
Well, thank you for hearing me, but I don't ever want to overrule something that they really want at their school. I think that's really important.
I want to say I was at Portola where they have, everybody loves the solar panels, but now, I was talking to Mr. Morgan. He was saying, I want to find a place to put a sign here now
Yeah.
because, it did block his gym as well, and he had some signage on the gym, but he's fine. He's like, I actually want to put something up closer on the street, I think it would be more visible.
Yeah.
So I
I've
think.
seen
I
schools
think
do that too.
It's a common
Yeah.
thing, when you put those panels up, it might block like a gym or a building in the back. But it just means we need to bring signage probably closer to the road,
Yeah.
which is probably for marketing and wanting to have people notice our schools. That's probably the best thing to do.
Yeah, murals on the side of buildings are great. They've been happening for years, but people have grown up and put more monument-based frontage murals and things like, or electronic signage, things like that. So we're growing up.
Right.
You know,
Why-
so we gotta slowly take advantage and do those
Well, I
things.
really like the VP monument in front. I see kids taking pictures of
Yeah.
it all the time, so.
It's been a great addition.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have any questions? Board members, questions or comments? Okay, trustee Erickson.
Going back to El Medina, yes, I do. Because we do, we have monuments at the front of, we'll have it in Orange High, we have it at Villa Park, and then Canyon is this massive building that's absolutely gorgeous. And I do worry a little bit about El Medina not quite having that curb appeal. So hopefully we will.
You'll be pleasantly surprised.
Okay. The other feedback I've had, and I love the new science building. It's absolutely gorgeous. What I've heard, it's the colors, because the colors don't necessarily coordinate with the rest of the campus. And because the rest of the buildings are going to be painted, I'm assuming that is
Yeah.
part of the plan, is to coordinate the color.
They won't be green.
Okay. But they'll blend with the new green. I've heard it referred to as the Pottery Barn building, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I won't say who referred to it as the Pottery Barn building, but it is gorgeous, but it definitely is different than the rest of the buildings.
It was supposed to stand out, but I think it stands out so much because without the new paint on the other buildings. So we could coordinate to that color, but we're going to look into potential changing of the colors of that building too, because of what we've heard. But we haven't discussed that
I
fully
think
yet.
it's beautiful. It just needs to coordinate with the rest of the campus.
I 100% agree because
Yeah.
it's
I
supposed.
like Pottery Barn personally.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, no, I think it's gorgeous. It's just
We just
not.
need
The
something
reason
more
they're making that
complimentary.
analogy is not the color of the building. Pottery Barn has these huge glass.
No, I know. I'm
Yeah.
It's
kidding.
the glass when you enter, that big open space.
Yeah.
Well, it is actually the color of the year. If you look, never mind. It's a whole thing.
The green
But it's
is?
okay. It doesn't
Okay.
matter. But yeah, I would just hope that it's going to just coordinate and just have a nicer color. I know Elmo has all those big murals on the front, which I know the students really like.
We're gonna ask them if they want to keep those or change those. I think it's a good opportunity to update those. Some of the classes that donated those, so we can restore them, but also add other elements in the front of the school. And like I said, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised, just depending on budget, of course. And then the painting of the buildings and things like that, also depending on budget. There's a cafeteria that needs to be painted. There's the gym that needs to be painted. It's in dire need. So Tony and I will be talking about, and Dave, of course, because he's the money, and Magna, to find available dollars to make some of these projects work so that we can make the entire campus look better instead of just the ones that we're touching with Measure S.
And what's most important about the Elmo renovation is that every classroom is being touched. And that's the most important thing, is that the students inside the classroom are going to be experiencing an environment that's so much better. And that is more important than anything. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you. Any other questions?
Madam President, I wanted to say kudos because I remember when we were waiting for the stairs on Canyon, because the parts weren't there because of the supply chain difficulties and stuff. And now it's there and it's spectacular. It looks really good.
It's a nice
really
entrance.
good.
Yes.
And
I was,
then, oh, excuse me. And then the other thing is, but Villa Park doesn't match, but you told me that they're going to be matching sometime,
The
old and the new?
the paint colors?
Yeah,
Yes.
okay.
So the new building will match, or the 100, 200 building will match the new building with paint. Although the classrooms inside are not being renovated, the bathrooms are, and the new staircases and elevator will add a lot of appeal to the
A
outside of the
different look, yeah,
building. But
yeah. But the old building will be the white that you see on the new.
And I encourage you to see the new building. We did make some changes to try to change the colors. It was very Swiss coffee, very white on white type of situation. So we added accent colors within all the classrooms. The classroom did have accent colors, but it was not the correct color. So we made sure to work with staff, get the correct color inside, and we repainted those areas for a very reasonable price and did all the staircases, the stair railing, and the skylight areas as well are all with an accent color. So the building really pops now. I'd encourage you to go inside.
Okay, thank you. Well, I was at Kenyon's back to school night, and I will say that parents, there was so much energy, and parents were just raving about the new building. So the frontage is just amazing.
Really exciting, and there's still things to fix. You know, we have to. Every new building has its quirks and things that we still need to you know, work with. So we're doing that. So if you hear things, we're working as hard as we can. Rory's team, my team are on top of anything that we hear. We're at the sites. We go look and talk to the principal. We want to make sure that the functionality of these buildings meet what they were designed to do. So sometimes that takes time. It's taking a little bit of time, a year maybe or so, and then we'll get everything dialed into where it fits perfectly with the educational program and whatnot.
Well, kudos to your department, because you not only measure us, but just maintaining all the other facilities in the district. It's so much work, and so I have to. Everyone talks about Scott Harvey. Like, oh, we'll let Scott Harvey know. Oh, we'll call Scott Harvey. So we know that you probably get hundreds of emails every day, every hour.
I like to say, you know, I'm blessed by the team I work with. I get a lot of support from Mr. Rivera. Cumming has been a great partner with us, and you know, it's been our life's work for many years now, and it's great to see it all come together. But we want to thank you, because you listen to everything that we have to say. We bring many you know, approvals to you, and getting through it, having to have everybody understand what we're trying to do, because we live it every day. It's easy for us, but for you, you need to make a decision within a split second, and you need to have all the information to make that decision, and you ask the right questions, and we try to coordinate, you know, outside of these meetings too, with Friday letters and things like that. But I think you guys have done a great job of asking the right questions for the community, making sure that these projects fit what they were envisioned to fit. So thank you.
I just want to say we had some interaction regarding CARE. So the CARE group that started this got a legacy award from the Orange Public Library Foundation. And it just brought back those memories of the fact that this did start as something, you know, so small and grew so greatly, but we all had a vision of what we wanted our schools to look like, and you have truly, truly, truly brought that vision to life. And it's absolutely, I mean, it's amazing, because we weren't even close to having campuses that are like this, and we've done it. So kudos to you and your team.
Well, we haven't done it yet, I would say.
Well, you've done most of it.
In 2 years of time, I'd like you to see the campuses, especially El Medina's campus, because we talked a lot about that today. But those changes that we're going to see at all the campuses are going to be pretty transformational and amazing. So we're
you are bringing those visions to life for all those parents and community members and grandparents and people that worked really, really hard to get the bond passed. You are doing them a great service, and you've done it under budget. You've done it a fantastic job. So thank you.
Thank you. Again, I thank my team and Mr. Rivera.
I appreciate all the conversations that we've had, the dialogue, sharing of information. We hope that you find this information meaningful. We plan to come back later on this year as we're gearing up and preparing and planning for the next phase of the projects, because we have a lot of work to do. If you remember back, Mr. Naquette shared with all the projects that we're touching basically all our campuses, sometimes multiple times. When you compare us to other districts are not doing what we're doing. And the results are our kids are in an engaging learning environment where they want to grow, where they want to be. And you can see it in the numbers. The numbers speak for themselves. So thank you for the support. Thank you for the commitment that you've made. When I come to work, this is not work for me. I love what I do, and I am very appreciative of what I see happening. So these are great things for our kids, and that's the bottom line. What could we do for our kids and not wait 10, 20 years for, the next, no, we need to serve our kids today. So thank you for your support and help, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, do we have any additional questions?
No, I think in 2.5 hours of Dave's team, I think we've covered it all. And thank you, Mr. Rivera, for your leadership. And I know that Megna was helping you. Ms. Bolsara was working in the budget office, helping to get all the reports that everybody needed to, demonstrate how fiscally prudent you've been with all this work. And we know we're still down some employees in the budget office, so we appreciate all that extra effort. And thank you to Mr. Harvey and Mr. Niket for working on this presentation. I think we started in the summer, and we got to share this, we got to share this. So we know it's a lot of information, and that's what a study session's for. So thank you, President Yamasaki, for putting this together and having us be able to present this information. And if you have any follow-up items that you'd like to get more information on, we'd be happy to put that in a Friday letter. Okay.
And I'd like to, and I want to express my appreciation for Mr. Irvin, who's really adopted in the business office. Really, I know he works in that services, but he's one of our colleagues in the business office, and Mrs. Brake for all the work that she does in helping put all the pieces together for us to tell our story to our families.
Well, this is incredible work, and I really appreciate everybody, all the effort. It was huge. It takes a village, like they say. So I just want to give you a round of applause for putting this together, this amazing presentation.
Madam President, and it's a little bit off the topic, not really on the topic. And I had received some emails on the messages abilities. So I told them that I two, and that they were not even in case. One has to do with another one has to say those things. I just want to be correct with the Crescent would have fall under the programs. The North Tustin, that I was also at that meeting. Yeah, both Mr. Harvey and I were. I didn't see you. We were sitting in the back. Oh, we were back. We came in a little bit after it started. So right. We're following that project too, and I think maybe it would be appropriate for a closed session discussion in relation to surplus property. That would be a time to talk. Okay,
I agree.
Okay, and then the comment about Crescent was just basically if and when we decide to make Crescent a K-8 school rather than a K-6, he's just hopeful that we do in-depth traffic study because he's got the traffic and this ingress and it's all going to work if that site has.
And I got that email as well, so I believe I forwarded it to Mr. Irvin. But as part of the CEQA process, we would always do a traffic study before construction. So did you want to add something to that, Mr.?
That would be definitely something we would look at. And as we did that facilities master plan, there was work in there on the traffic patterns and some projection on some additional parking area. Because right now it does bottleneck. We've done things to accommodate that by opening up the second gate. So we allow cars to drive out through that gate to try to alleviate some of that traffic. but because OPK is also in that same area and the bus parking, there's some congestion, but we're doing everything possible to alleviate that.
And when that day comes, there'll be more study, there'll be
Yeah,
more conversations. Every site is unique and has its own challenges. That one is, I mean, everyone is particularly unique. I mean, Rancho, they all have a lot of really conditions to meet. Thank you very much. I just felt a little obligation to this email right about you, so.
I also had a conversation with the gentleman that reached out to you.
Oh, good.
And so when we go through processes like this in the past, what I've seen done in best business practice is that you have a town hall meeting. Let's talk about what we're going to be doing. Let's get your input. Very similar to what we've done in other processes. So I anticipate that that would be part of our process. Besides the CEQA requirements, is that we talk to our community and get their input, because there may be small things that we can do to adjust them, adjust the traffic flow, just like the relationship that we had with Villa Park. But now we have a much more functional front of the school than we had before. So that will anticipate that will be part of the process.
I think we're
Relative to Ms. Moffitt's other question about that North Tustin specific plan which involves the Village Orange, is that what it's called? The Village at Orange? There are 4 city meetings, which we can put in the Friday packet if you're interested in attending your public meetings with that community. And I would think any discussion about that would relate to our property, Peralta, which is us right next to there. So we can have Mr. Rivera, we can put something together for the closed session, have some conversation.
actually, I think Karen did send us.
Yeah, there's like
Okay.
4 dates
Yeah.
that they're having. It's like a town hall meeting run by a couple of the city council members, and they're collecting input. So right now, it's just a big process, but I think it would be something, because it does relate to our surplus property, we'd have to discuss that in closed session.
Thank you.
Thank you. So meeting is adjourned at 8:36.